Guy Haberman, hi.
John Middlecoff, hi.
Hello. Good to see you. Subscribe to this video down there. I haven't figured it out yet. The red thing.
Yeah, podcast down there somewhere too. Haberman, Middlecoff, that's him, that's me. Haberman, Middlecoff. Podcast up everywhere you listen to your podcast. Go subscribe.
All right, the 49ers, they have a choice, John. Are they going to be the Falcons and the Patriots? Are they going to be the Panthers and the Rams? Those are the last 4 Super Bowl losers. One of them was a winner, too, the Pats. Pats came back and won the thing. Falcons came back, won 10 games the next year. Panthers, 6 wins. I mean, the Rams, 9-7. Not terrible.
No. Well,
the
Falcons went on to win a playoff game, remember, at L.A.
So the biggest question facing the Niners is, can they sustain? Can they sustain being one of the best teams in the NFL?
Yeah, I think now that's their standard. They're viewed at with a great head coach. Kyle Shanahan is kind of the apple of everyone's eye around the league, especially as an offensive coordinator. And when you look at their roster, it's relatively young. They have core pieces in place. Despite trading DeForest Buckner, still have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner.
Now, the singer, Bob Seger.
Let it rip, Jim. Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, Mike McGlinchey, Deebo Samuel, and their coaches just could be the head coach for 20 years. So that they are in position to be a factor, multiple first-round picks for a long period of time. You just got to do it. And I think everyone's bullish on them. I would say anything less in 2020 than a playoff game. Like, if they're not in the playoffs, it's a disaster, too strong of a word. That would be pretty eye-opening.
I mean,
right?
To me, it's we could just say, if it looks like the Rams, would that be a disaster?
Yeah, it'd be very disappointing, guy. It'd be one playoff berth in 4 years. That's the Rams have already made 2 and 3, and for Sean McVay, like, it's for Kyle. You're viewed this way for a reason. You know, with this team, it's 9 wins. To me, they're on paper before the draft, guy. They're an 11-win team.
They've got to nail the 13th pick. I mean, we'll get into draft stuff with them, but for this team, you started rattling off names. How many premium guys at their position do they have? Like, you'd say George Kittle is premium at his position. Nick Bosa is premium at his position.
I'd say Fred Warner got pretty close. Kuechly's out, and some of these guys are getting older. He's damn good.
Richard Sherman?
Yeah, I mean, had one of his best seasons of his career last year.
McGlinchey?
Yeah, I think that would be strong. But yeah, I think you feel good about McGlinchey. Yeah, he's up there. I mean, he's a pretty good defensive pass rusher.
And here's what I'm getting at, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I do think part of them maintaining while they subtract. Now, they're going to add, but while you subtract DeForest, I think part of this is about Garoppolo improving. Like, I think part of the reason you and I have been bullish on him for a few years is we think he's going to keep getting better. We keep saying things like, well, he's got less starts than Baker Mayfield. Like, okay, that works until you have way more starts. And then the question is, that goes out the window, and then it's like, Are you producing? Are you improving? I do think he's going to improve, and as their team gets more and more expensive around him, he has to.
To me, his biggest knock last year were the careless interceptions.
Yeah,
throwing it to guys in stride.
The one at Cincinnati.
There was one against Carolina to Luke Kuechly to kind of open up the game. Now they ended up blowing the game out.
How about Eric Kendricks? How do you feel about that one?
That wasn't a great one either, and that was in the playoffs.
We love Jimmy, by the way.
Yeah, we do, but there were some picks, and this is the number one thing of just ball security when you release the football. And does that come, to me, what we're going to learn, does it come with time, experience, seeing things, or is he a turnover-prone player? Like, he threw picks in the Super Bowl. Now, I think the one pick he threw early in the Super Bowl, he was trying to throw it out of bounds, and it just didn't get there. But there are times in the Seattle game, the Monday Night Football game that went to overtime, there were multiple drives where he could have thrown like 3 picks on each drive. The balls were just getting dropped. So can he expand on his game? Because if he can, if he can become a legitimate, consistent top 7-8 quarterback in the NFL, the Niners are going to win for a long time, right? It's really that simple. If you got Kyle Shanahan and you give him a top 7-8 quarterback, it's on like Donkey Kong. And for the most part, when they needed Jimmy in the regular season, not in the playoffs, they didn't need him, but in the regular season, the second half of the year, he turned it on and was big time for him.
Yep.
Why they won the Saints game, why they won the final Seattle game, why they won the Rams game. Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy was making plays. So if Jimmy makes plays for them, they're going to be in good shape for a long time. But if they're just good next year, he's going to get judged and nitpicked a little like this year. Guy, they were going into the Super Bowl, and he was kind of getting crushed because he didn't have to throw the ball in the playoffs.
Right.
Now, you could argue that's a good problem to have, and the Niners will deal with that problem if that's the case.
Yeah, I think he was like 19th or 20th in attempts. I'll pull it up. But which,
he did win the NFC Championship game throwing 8 times.
No, I know. But I thought that was what was interesting. And again, he missed 2 games.
6 of 8, efficient, right?
He was 19th in attempts. Mahomes was 18th in attempts. Like
skewed, right? Missed games.
Yeah, I know, and he runs whatever, but missed 2 games. But I think for people that watched his whole season, it'd be easier for me to latch on to like the NFC Championship game if I hadn't seen the Saints game, if I hadn't seen the second Seattle game, when I know they don't win the game without him making play after play after play, when he goes toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson and toe-to-toe with Drew Brees. So I think it's in him. It's more about that. It's not about the high end. It's about the consistency and bringing the interceptions down. And then the other thing to me is like they've got to nail the 13th pick.
Well, DeForest Buckner was top 5 player on their Super Bowl team. So on their team that ran away to the NFC Championship game. Might have been Bosa, Kittle. You could argue who's their 3rd best player. So while I love a good trade a player for a premium draft pick, you are trading a really good player, right? For a team that doesn't just trade away stuff, the Colts feel elated. So you are trading a B+, A- level player. So you need that guy to not be a huge contributor, but be a star, because Buckner was an immediate impact player. Here's the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo, though, Guy. A guy like him, a younger player, and I think it's going to impact a lot of younger quarterbacks and quarterbacks that are changing teams. The offseason was going to be big for Jimmy, right? To pick up the nuances of the game, to expand on the scheme that he's been in now for countless years, but to take it to a next level, it's not really on the table right now. The OTAs are gone, training camp. Like I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but that's a big piece of missed opportunity that everyone's going to miss out on. Now it's an equal playing field.
I think you're right. I would say because this is a unique offseason for Jimmy. Like the offseasons used to mean more for Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy Garoppolo never had an offseason after he was a full-time starter. This is his first offseason after he was a full-time starter ever. He never started more than 5 games in a season before last year. So I do think this offseason, and it's easy to say this, but I think this offseason might be more about him learning from the stuff he already did, reflecting, and just having a year where you're like, okay, I was just a starter. What do I need to get better at? Versus so much of his other off seasons have been about like simulation of game speed, and that's not what this is. So
that's what I'm
hopeful,
saying, guy.
I guess I'm just saying I'm hopeful that this offseason affects him less than it might otherwise have in previous years because he just had a whole season as a starter.
Well, it's like your first year of college that you kind of figure everything out. There's a huge learning experience. That
you gain
realize,
15 pounds.
Yeah, you don't really have to go to class, but you got to take the tests. You realize you got to pay for these books. There's just a lot of learning process. By your second year, you're much more comfortable, but there's still a huge learning process going on personally, academically, whatever. Like it is, they say like the part of football and quarterback play, it becomes kind of an academic exercise because it's all up here. Like his physical gifts are his physical gifts. It's now trying to master the different coverages, what they're going to see when you're doing this with Kittle, when you're doing this with Debo, how they think like they were going to start teaching a master class in this offense with their core guys. And I mean, he's probably been dreaming about this once they lost that Super Bowl game. Like, how are we going to take it to the next level? And now they can't. My point is, when you have like an Albert Einstein level teacher having just the classwork and the book when nothing's on the line, and you really like that could have been a separating point for the Niners. Just May, June, July, just when they were working on stuff that other teams can't.
Hopefully now that he's seen 16 games plus postseason, I mean, he's seen a Super Bowl, maybe all the stuff they do over Zoom conference will stick a little more than it otherwise would have.
True.
We'll see.
Jed can always tweet him ideas.
Or sing a song.
Or
Seager.
I don't
Every NFL owner doing Seager videos. Can we get that?
There's no easier artist to get a bunch of guys to retweet you. Just play a Seager song. Play Night Moves.
Working on the night moves.
Immediate 500 retweets. I don't care who you are.
Please stop singing. Okay.